Hey fam, this is Calm. Welcome to At This Ungodly Hour. Welcome to the program. This is Commodacity, and the program is At This Ungodly Hour. So, at this time of night, every night, we talk about something different. We talk about whatever is on our mind. What's on my mind tonight, is helping kids to choose their careers. How do you help your child? How do you guide your child in terms of career choices? Are you one of those parents who will dictate to your child and tell the child which career path to choose based on your idea of what the child is capable of and what the child would love and what the child needs to do in order to make it big in the world? What is your approach? Do you even bother to ask a child, or do you just allow your child to come into his or her own, eventually choose whatever path appeals to him or her? What level of guidance do you provide? That's what I want us to talk about tonight. Because what I observe, I want you to ask yourself the question in whatever field you find yourself in. And I know that many persons have more than one lines of work, right? You're in more than one field. A lot of us, when we don't just limit ourselves to one career. Some of us have only one, some of us have none. Believe it or not, some people have no career. They spend their life being parasitic. They spend their life relying on other people to take care of them. And they don't see anything wrong with this. And I'm talking about males and females. Males and females are of the view. Some males and some females are of the view that they should be kept. They want to be a kept woman, or they want to be a kept man, which means somebody else should be completely responsible to meet their financial needs, to take care of their bills, to take care of their food, their travel, their everything. And some people are quite all right with that. That's exactly how they want it. They want nothing to change. They don't feel, and they don't have any hang-ups about it. And they will tell you there's no insecurity in them, and they don't feel threatened or smothered or the way some of us would look at that as, boy, I wouldn't want to have somebody. I know for me, I wouldn't want to be reliant on anybody for my food, for my bus fare, for my bills, for my everything. I have to sit down and wait for somebody to decide to fork out some cash. Give me no way. My spirit is much too independent for that. But some of these people, they're fine with that. They don't have any problem. They'll sit and wait, and whatever they have to do to appease the person so that the person will continue to keep them, they're fine with that. All right. You have some mothers, some fathers who prime their daughters for this kind of life, especially if the daughter, maybe she looks a certain way, which is considered to be a 10. Because nowadays, when people are talking about you on the scale of 1 to 10, they're really focusing on your physical attributes, right? And according to them, if you look a certain way, if you shape a certain way, if you have a certain complexion, if you have a certain kind of hair, they will put you on the scale of 1 to 10. A lot of girls, I remember reading a poem. I don't remember the poem, the poet. And I think this was a CSEC poem too. And the poet was saying to his daughter, she was what we would call a plain Jane, right? Nothing too fancy about her. In fact, some people might even say she was ugly. And he was giving thanks for the fact that his daughter was plain and that some people would consider her to be ugly because he saw that as her saving grace. Because that would mean less men would want her and less men would be throwing money and material things at her. And so she would less likely fall into traps and eventually become very unhappy, right? But you do have some parents who, if their kids, especially their daughters, have certain physical attributes, they prime them to go catch a man, to go catch a sugar daddy, to go catch somebody who will keep her. And that's her career. That's how she's going to make her money. And it happens with men too, maybe not on the same scale. So you have parents who are pimps towards their children. They line up the deal, they find the client, and they see that the transaction takes place and they collect the money. Of course, we know this is not this is illegal activity, this is criminal activity. But you have parents who do that. That's the career that they have chosen for their children. We have parents who send out their kids to work on the street, to sell, to do all manner of things to earn a living. And we're talking about 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 10-year-old, 12-year-old, right? But we're not talking about that extreme. We're talking about the average child in your home approaching the age where these choices will need to be made. So we're talking about let's say from grade 9 up, because when you're in high school, you get to grade 9. That's kind of like the critical year where you're exposed to all the subjects, and that's the year where you're expected to make a choice, to narrow down your subject choices based on the career path that you've chosen. And many high schools are very strict when it comes to the streams. So when you finish grade 9 and you're going into grade 10, you're pretty much either going to be doing the sciences, or we would say the STEM subjects, or you're going to be doing the business subjects, or you're going to be doing the arts, pretty much, right? So you have to use the grade 9 year. So parents, when the kids touch the grade 9 year, you have to really sit down with them and guide them and ask them questions as to what do you feel yourself inclined towards. Because mark you, we all know when it comes to kids, especially smaller kids, 3, 4, 5, 6, when you ask them what they want to become, trust me, you're gonna get some standard doctor, lawyer, engineer. Nowadays, the kids having been exposed to the internet and certain channels on cable and so on. And if they're very scientific and they read a lot, you'll hear them using some really big terms, that when we were growing up, it was just the lawyer, doctor, Indian chief, right? Nowadays, those little ones, they want to be paleontologists and orthodontists and these 4 and 5 syllable careers, these really specialized careers, right? But even no matter how fancy it sounds, I think we all understand that that age you can't really take them seriously because they don't know yet. They just these it sounds fancy to them, or maybe they watch a cartoon with a paleontologist, or they watch this documentary with a whoever ologist, and it appeals to them. It looks fascinating to them. But as they grow older and they're exposed to new things, they're exposed to new subject areas, they're exposed to life, they're coming to themselves, right? They're coming to their own. They pretty much more than likely will change their minds from the answers that they gave you when they were 4, 5, 6, 7 coming. So it's just it almost doesn't matter, to be honest with you, what they say in that age group. But of course, you allow them to express because it's part of their development, right? All right, so grade 9 is the crucial year, the critical year, and you'd want to sit with your youngster. So this is what now, for anywhere from grade 9 can be anywhere from 13 years old to either 16 years old, depending on the school, right? It's a big range in terms of so anywhere in that area, once they touch grade 9, you want to be having this conversation with them. But I'm putting it to you. I'm asking you, what is your approach, though? Is it an open-ended kind of, you just guide them, let them know what's available, let them know what's necessary, and then you allow them to choose? Is that the approach? Or do you tell them? Do you tell them this is what you're going to do? Because this is what the family has always done. This is what daddy is. This is what mommy is. This is what you need to be. Is that your approach? And I'm not here to dictate to you to say that any of the approaches is good or bad. Clearly, I would think my approach is the better approach because it's my approach, right? But you are entitled to yours, and I'm open to hear how do you approach career guidance for your youngsters. I want to share with you. Let me see if I can get it up. Okay. I want to share a little excerpt from one of my books that I'm compiling now. So for those who are not aware, I'm an author, and so far I have published 28 books. This book that I'm going to be reading from, it isn't yet out. It's about to be published, and the title is How to Be a Badass Mother. There are actually two books in that series: How to Be a Badass Mother and How to Be a Badass Teacher. All right, so this particular excerpt, this is entitled Choosing Your Child's Career. Right? So it says, when it comes to career paths, be careful what you wish upon your children. We all know that the general consensus among parents is for their child to grow up to be a doctor or a lawyer. Right? This is first response embedded into our psyche. Sure, there are some fancy sounding names for careers nowadays, but the big two remain the contenders: lawyer, doctor. We have been conditioned to believe that these are the ultimate in terms of ambition. Of course, technology is upon us, and children nowadays don't only say they want to be doctors. This is so blasé. They're specifically, oh sorry, they specifically want to be neurosurgeons or oncologists or pediatric pulmonologists. Okay, so they still want to be doctors, but here's my point. Medicine is one of those fields where if you don't truly have the knack for it, and if you don't truly love people and want to help them, you probably shouldn't get involved. You will end up giving a lethal injection to the guy with a broken leg who can't speak standard English well and who keeps asking you a bunch of dumb questions. Or at least if you don't outright do the dreadful thing for fear of being imprisoned or charged with malpractice, your days will be spent doing Google searches like how to get away with giving lethal injections while keeping your medical practice. Law. If you're not a paper person who loves research and doesn't mind being entangled in procedures that take forever and a day, and if you're not good at lying through your teeth, and if you're not sociable and know how to suck up to people till you get what you want, you probably shouldn't get into this field of law. Parents shouldn't coerce children to take up careers that have nice sounding names or even nice looking figures at the end of the month if they don't have an inclination for that thing or a knack for the field. It's nice to say, here's my son, the medical doctor. It's even nicer if he could have a genuine smile along with it. Your profession is something that you invest a heck of a lot of money into, and it's something that you will devote a heck of a lot of time into during your most productive years. It must be something you will love, something that won't feel like tedium, something that won't generate resentment for your clients. Parents, your children may grow to resent you for this, even in the midst of knowing how proud you are of them. The way you can brag. You might just be the one at the receiving end of a lethal injection. Okay. You might turn out to be the one at the receiving end of the lethal injection if you coerce your child into something that they don't have a knack for, they don't have much interest in, they don't have the passion for. You're the one with the passion, and it's not your career, right? So we have to be careful. Parents, we have to be careful about what we force our children to do. Don't force them. This is their life. This is what they're going to spend decades at. It should be something that they have a natural love and knack for. And yes, they are young, they need guidance. But that's what you should provide. Provide the guidance, even if you need to get professional guidance for them. Professional guidance counselor in terms of career choice. Get that for them. In the old days, right? In the old days, how did it used to go? If you can think back to your childhood, or if you have read history, you'll understand. In the olden days, you pretty much became what your parent was. Isn't that so? Especially for the males and also for the females too, right? So the males pretty much would become whatever trade your dad was involved in, that's what you become, especially if you were the firstborn son. If your father was a baker, you were expected to become a baker. Your father was a carpenter, you were expected to become a carpenter. He would, when you got to a certain age, you would become his apprentice, and he would, teach you the tricks of the trade, teach you the ropes, as they say, and gradually you will become a part of the trade, and then you might branch off to do your own thing, or you stay within the family business. If your mother was a seamstress, she would teach you her skills. um, the jobs that were offered to women in particular were very limited. I can think of probably 5 or 6 jobs that, if the woman, because remember, most women were at home, running the house, taking care of the kids, doing the chores at home. Most women. The ones who decided to go out to work, to have a career, and some of these you can't even call it a career, it's just a job. Some of these that were offered to women: teaching, that was a popular one for women. Teaching, postmistress, nursing, seamstress, secretary. Those kinds of jobs were pretty much the only ones available to women. And as a matter of fact, in terms of formal schooling, many persons didn't get past grade 4, grade 5, grade 6 of elementary school, or all age school as it was. Well, but here in Jamaica it was all age school. After that, you had to go learn a trade, or you had to go, pretty much you were approaching the age to be married and start your home, start your family. Luckily for our children, and for us, for my generation, we had much more options than our parents and our grandparents. And our kids now have even more options, right? So that is a good thing. If you came from a farming family, you don't necessarily have to be a farmer, right? Your dad was a mechanic, you don't necessarily have to be a mechanic. You can choose to do something else. And parents, we have to understand that as much as you might be an entrepreneur, you started your own business from scratch, you build up your business. This is what you use to send your kids to school. Everything that you buy for them came from the business, and you take great pride in that. Even so, it doesn't necessarily follow that that's what your children will want to be. The family business might not be what they want to come and run, and you have to respect that. So just because you started a wholesale from scratch, and you build it from, you used to walk around and sell 2 sweetie, then you start sell 10 sweetie, then you start sell 50 sweetie, and you gradually, and then you start sell bread, and you start till you build and build and build, and now you have your big shop which you're proud of, and that's what send all your kids to school, that's what pay all your bills. It doesn't mean that that's what your kids are going to want to come and take over. Yes, they might inherit it, but they might want somebody else to manage it, because that just might not be where their passion lies, right? And we just, as parents, I know it's hard sometimes, because some of us, we live vicariously through our kids. We do. A lot of us, especially if you made a lot of mistakes in your past, and you really regret certain things that you did, and you wasted a lot of time, you missed a lot of opportunities, you started off with a lot of goals, and you weren't able to achieve them. A lot of times, for parents like those, they might want to live vicariously through their children, and they might want their kids to come and accomplish the very same things that they had set out to do, but they didn't get to do. You have to understand that your child is not you. Your child's passion is not your passion necessarily. So yes, you missed the boat, you messed up, you didn't do as much as you had set off to do, but you still got yourself in a position where you could pass on the baton, and you're hoping now that your child is going to finish the race. Nothing wrong with that, but they don't have to finish the same race. They don't have to run in the same lane that you were running. Put it that way, then that sound better. They don't have to run in the same lane that you were running in. They have their own race to run. All you can do is to facilitate that for them. Be the so you're gonna have to source in terms of funding for them, and we have to understand that nowadays this thing about when the child reach 18 is an adult now, and he must go on his own. That's not something that I take seriously anymore. An 18-year-old in this day and age is not equipped emotionally, financially, not even physically sometimes, to go out on their own. This is the age where kids are just starting college. Or if they're not going to go to college, they're just going to try to establish themselves in a trade or in a job or in a career. They're not in a position to go on their own. That's my opinion. For those parents who feel like, yeah, me just a go mind him till him 18, or me just a go mind her till she 18, she dep on her own. To me, that's brutal. To me, that's just setting up your young adults for a life of misery, and setting them up to make some of the same mistakes that you made. Hi, Kevin. So, Kevin says the education system is very poor in giving career guidance, little aptitude testing, um, solid information on salary ranges, job availability, required skills, competencies, and skills for certain jobs, etc. And I agree. Do we have career guidance in our high schools? Like I said, at the grade 9, which is a critical level. Maybe it should even start at grade 8 coming up. Grade 9, definitely. How many of our schools have career guidance? How many of our schools have? I remember when I was going to school, we had career day, and the school would invite past students to come in to talk about their careers. So members of the alumni who are now established in their career to come back on career day, and of course we would dress up. The students would dress up in the uniforms or the attire of the particular career that they want to be. And these actual alumni now who are in the alumni who are in their actual professions would come in and provide guidance as to what qualifications, what subjects you need to take, what grades you need to get, what you need to do after high school, that kind of guidance. I don't know if that is still offered. I know the guidance counselors you would go in and give you some solid information, as Kevin said, about what exactly you need to do, the subjects you need to take, which grades you need to get in order to matriculate to go to college. All of that, we need to sit our youngsters down and make sure that they know these things. So they don't just choose the subject that their friend choose, because their best friend choose that, and they want to sit in the class with the best friend, so they choose that too. Or they choose a subject that it's neither here nor there, when they could have chosen another one that is more, that will provide more, a stronger foundation for the jobs that they want. Hi, Jacob. So Jacob says, I think there is some, but I think it's superficial. I think more so than we need a database. Far too many people are being priced out of education. Explain further for me, Jacob, what you mean by they are being priced out of education. I think I have an idea what you mean, but I want you to explain for me a little more clearly what you mean by that, right? So we're talking about parents living vicariously through their kids, wanting their kids to finish up what they didn't get to do in their lives, right? And as I said, nothing is wrong in you wanting the best for your child, but you can't expect your child to finish your race. You have to finish your race, right? You have to finish your race. Right now, a lot of adults are going back to school. They're going back to finish up those goals that they had set. Because here what the life expectancy gone up there, right? So the other day I found out that a gentleman, a dear friend of my family, he's in his 70s. He's in his 70s. And someone in the family sent me a pic. You know what that gentleman was doing? He was graduating college with his PhD. His PhD in his 70s. And I was just so overjoyed. I was so proud. I know persons who taught themselves to read as adults, went back to school, got their subjects, got everything that they need, and gone again to chase their goals. It's not too late for you, and you don't have to be waiting on your child to achieve the goals that you had set for yourself. You go and finish up your race. Let your child run his race or her race. So Jacob says, even though they claim no guarantors are needed, that is not the case for student loan even now. Good night. Okay, so they're saying no guarantors are needed, and then they're asking for guarantors for the student's loan. It's just too much money. I was speaking to a young lady the other day, and she was asking if I know anyone who would be a guarantor for her. Let's take a school like UTech school fees, okay, can go in regular programs north of 600,000 a year, 200,000 per semester. And this is, I can vouch for this, right? And depending on the faculty, it can go into the millions, million and odd, right? Depending on the faculty, 1 point something million per year. So that is a real issue. And then there's the issue of, are there jobs? Because a lot of persons are complaining. I don't know if they just join a bandwagon. I don't know if it's really, really a legitimate problem, or people will just join a bandwagon and they're not really putting out the effort to find job anyway. But the complaint is, they went to college, they got this degree, and now nobody wants them. Nobody has a place for them, right? So there's that. So when I was growing up, a lot of families, yes, like medicine and law and those things, 1 point something million, easy, 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 easy. A lot of families didn't have even, I knew a lot of families in my little village. I grew up in rural St. Andrew here in Jamaica. A lot of families didn't have one person who was a college graduate. They did not one person in the family graduated from a tertiary institution. They may have had some who went to a high school, and it wasn't any high school to speak of, because in Jamaica we rank our high schools, at least traditionally. They were ranked, they were streamed, right, to the low performing ones and the higher performing ones, and then the elite ones. These families barely made it through some of the lower level high schools. A few of the members, most of them were just tradesmen, or you're a laborer. You might get a little work today, and then you're not sure when the next work will come. For you go push a little wheelbarrow, or lay some blocks, or carry a little sand for somebody. Or even the ones who had a trade, like the plumber, the electrician, the carpenter, the work was not guaranteed to be flowing in. So it's just when you get to work, right? And a lot of these, well, maybe not a lot, but you would have a situation where, especially for my generation, the kids would come and they would put their mind to their work, and they would become the first ones in the family to get a tertiary level education, to get a degree, even to get a high school diploma. Sometimes they were the first in the family, which is a matter of pride. It's a matter of pride, right? A part of, but then they might reach a level where they can't go any further, because why? No plan was made, nothing was put in place, no resources were, no kind of saving never put on for education. It's only when the government started heavily subsidizing even secondary level education that a lot of our mothers and fathers and so on got the chance to even get a high school education, with subsidized education. A lot of parents don't even think ahead to put down a college fund to say, all right, in case the child put the head to it and they do what they need to do, and they get to the level now where they can go to college, what do I have as a little saving to help out? Because a lot of them really end up taking student loans, which is another issue, because I have never liked the idea of student loan ever. I don't like the idea of student loans. But for some persons, that's the only option they have. And if it wasn't for that, a lot of persons would not get a tertiary level education, because the parents don't have zilch, nothing put aside for that. It was just always hand to mouth, payday to payday, payday to payday. So there is something to be said for subsidized education. There's something to be said for loans and all of that. Just that me personally, I don't like the idea. I stay away from that kind of thing. Jacob says we need to talk about the atmosphere created for that generation, the policies people like Michael Manley put in place, free education. I agree. You have a lot of people who are lazy. Yes, you have a lot of people who are lazy, and they are not proactive, and they have no forward vision, right? They don't propel themselves in more than 5 minutes into the future. They don't plan, they don't do any kind of preparation. For those of the Michael Manley era, maybe you can tell me some more about the changes that he made to education and the benefits. But Jacob says we also have a large population who are priced out, who want to make a better for themselves. Yes. And sometimes it's only lip service. Sometimes people will only say that they want X, Y, Z, but are they willing to do what it takes? Are they willing to sacrifice? A lot, I operate a school, right? I operate a school. I might have somebody come and they're complaining, they can't pay this fee, they can't pay that fee, and then you look at the student, even just since this summer here, a parent came to me, can't pay this, can't pay that. And the child, a teenager, she had on this long blonde wig, this long blonde wig, and the finest, the name brand sneakers and this, and I'm saying, and not to mention the phone, that these kids have. And these parents will be the one who telling you, oh, I want the best, and they're not willing to give up some of the name brand things and they're not willing to make any kind of sacrifice. They just want to say the thing because it sounds good. It sounds good to say it, but are you willing to do what it takes? Are you willing to do what it takes for your child to reach the ultimate? It takes sacrifice. It takes you going without certain things as a parent, and it takes you putting your foot down when your child asks for certain things and they don't need it. It's not a matter of want. They don't need it. And you put your foot down and you say, no, we have to channel those funds into something else that's going towards your education, your future. And another thing is people who use their kids as their pension. That's something I'm not into that either, right? Your child is not your pension. Your child is your responsibility, your duty to ensure that your child gets a proper education, at least the minimum up to high school, to finish high school. And then if you're any parent that's worth anything, in my opinion, you will also see to it that your child gets at least access to a college education, in my opinion. Right? A lot of persons would discourage, or you see if you have the intention to go to college, I would say to you, is when you leave high school, go straight to college. Try and go straight to college. If you have that intention, yeah, you can take a gap year. My kids, they took a gap year, two of them. I think they took 2 gap years where they just chill and then they transition to college, right? But once you have that on your mind that you're gonna go to college, don't go out to work. That I wouldn't advise you to go into the job market, because it's unless you're really grounded in yourself and you're really firm on what your ambition is, and you need to get a job to save up some money. Because I know people who do that too. When I was going to high school, a lot of my teachers, I can think of probably 6 of my teachers, much more than 6, but their names and faces flood into my head now, at least 6 of them, who I thought these were just teachers, right? At the time, I wasn't privy to the information. I thought these were just my maths teacher, my chemistry teacher, my this teacher, my that teacher, only to find out a couple years pass, and you know what, I get to understand, no, they were just teaching for maybe 2 or 3 years to save that money to go to what, medical school, law school, and so on. I can think of three of my teachers who became doctors. I can't, just off the bat, I can think of three of them. When I went to the hospital to have my, well, I delivered my son at home, and we went to the hospital after he was delivered, and I remember I had my son in my hand. And we're going up to the maternity ward. He was already born, have him in my hand. And who did I see coming down the stairs? My maths teacher. My math, the man who taught me math in what, I think it was third form. A big gynecologist. He's practicing still today. Big gynecologist. The teacher who taught me, what did she teach? History or geography. The teacher, one of my geography teachers. Late, I saw her a couple of years after that. She was a full-fledged general practitioner. So it can be done. You just have to have the discipline. If you're gonna go into the work world immediately after high school to save up some money, make sure you're grounded. Because you see, once you start earning the money, it's the hardest thing to let it go. And to go back now to study. Once the money start coming and you realize that, hey, I can buy this, I can buy that, I can ray is the hardest thing. So you have to make sure you're really firm, right? When I left high school, I told myself, oh, I'm gonna work for a year. That's what I told myself. I'm gonna work for a year and then I'll go to university. So, as a matter of fact, when I left fifth form, I followed in the summer. I followed a family friend. She wanted to look for a job, and she said, "Follow me," because I was spending my holiday with her. Just leave fifth form. I followed her. She applied for the job. I filled out the application. I got the job. She didn't get the job. This was a lady in her 20s, probably 26. Me, 15 years old. So that's how I got my first summer job, selling promotional items. When I left sixth form, I said, okay, before I go to college, I'm going to work for a year. Started working at the bank, at NCB. I left NCB and I went selling cars. Then I went to teach. And, when I went to college, I just started college like 2 years ago. Because life just happened after that. Things I got, and I didn't regret it, right? I chose that route, but I'm just letting you know how easy it is for you to go off track. Once you start working, once you start earning money, it's easy. So you have to make sure that you're grounded. The most important thing for me in terms of advising persons in terms of your career, the most important thing is to make sure this is your passion. Make sure this is something you love. Make sure it's not just something you're doing because your parents want you to do it, or your friends say they're going to do that, so you're going to do that, or because it's the family's tradition that the boys do this, or it's the family's tradition that the girls need that, or we need a doctor in the family, we need a lawyer in the family, we need an engineer in the family in case anything. Yeah, people who actually think like that. And then these individuals end up in careers that they're not passionate about They don't enjoy going. They don't enjoy waking up in the mornings and going to these places. And they take it out on their patients. They take it out on their clients. They take it out on their staff and their co-workers. They are not happy. They are not fulfilled. And that's a miserable life. Right? So that's the first thing. Do I really love this thing? Can I do this thing for decades? Because you can change your career, you can, in my opinion, you can have many careers in your lifetime, but at least the first one you're going to be spending many years or decades at. Is it a viable career? That's another question. In this day and age, some careers are defunct. They are no longer viable. You have to study the trends, what is needed, and what are the qualifications you're going to need, and ensure that you meet those qualifications, right? That would be my advice to you. Don't just choose the job that you think is the most lucrative, that's going to bring in the most cash, because you can end up in the mansion, driving the biggest, fastest car, and you're not happy. If you're an artist, a musician, a writer, if that's what you love, do that. It might mean you have to do something else on the side for the bread and butter. Because the thing with the arts is you have to really, is you're at one end of the spectrum or the next. It's either you're going to be poverty stricken or you're going to really make it. Those in the middle, they're barely eking out a living. So if you're going into anything with the arts, you might have to have another thing where that's your bread and butter, that's going to pay the bills and keep you fed and keep a roof over your head. It's just the reality of it, right? But follow your passion, follow what you really love. For those of you, no. Yeah. I do things, I do things I live in opposite land, you see? You can't follow me. You can't follow how I do things. I do things backwards and upside down, and I get excellent results. You can't follow my pattern. I do everything the other way around, but I get great results. I'm just different. That's why a lot of time people come to me for advice. I don't advise them on what I would do. I advise them on what normal people should do. Because I've accomplished so many things in my life without the degree. I'm doing 2 degrees at the same time right now. 2 degrees at the same time. Right? Yeah, so in the comments, I want you to tell me, the job that you're in now, was it what you always wanted to do? Was it your dream job, or did you just stumble into it by accident? Did you just leave high school and you just accepted the first available job, and the years pass and the years pass, and by the time you look, 20 years and you've been in the job, and they're having their ceremony and you're gone up go collect long service award, and that's not even what you wanted to do with your life. You know, a lot of people, they're just there and the years just pass. It's just like in some marriages. We've been married 40 years. Yeah, you've just been there 40 years. 40 years have passed. That's how some people are in their jobs. When you get in the long service award and you hear, oh, he's been with the company 15 years. She's been with the company 25 years, 30 years. It may not have been 30 happy years. They leave high school, they send out 100 applications, 2 people respond, they go for the interview, they get the job and they've just stayed there forever and ever. Amen. No mobility, no upward mobility, not even lateral mobility. They're just stuck. Don't be like that. That's no way to live. That's no way to live, right? Live your passion, live your dream. All right. Jacob, you've been excellent company. Thank you so much for being with me. And Kevin, and I know my mom is watching on YouTube as well. For all of those who are watching on YouTube, on Facebook, thank you for keeping me company. And remember, if you want to come in studio with me any night, I'll just send you the link and you can join me in studio and we'll have our discussion, right? Just say the word, I'll send you the link and you can join me. So tomorrow night we'll have another interesting conversation. Thank you for your time, family. Have a great night. I'll see you tomorrow.